Well, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you're tuning in from. We're delighted that you opted in to join us today for this special event, Predictions 2024. One has to be careful about offering any guarantees, but this one's a no-brainer. You're about to hear from our distinguished, if I can speak, and visionary Avanti leaders on what's ahead for 2024, which is somehow just days away. I'm not sure how we got here so fast. I'm Ira Wolf. I'm your moderator for today's Peek into the Future. As a global thought leader in the everywhere workspace, my mission is not just to predict the future, but to help others prepare for it. So I'm thrilled to be here and join this team as we explore a few crucial themes. One, business trends. What does the ever evolving landscape of global business look like in 2024? AI. It's not just a buzzword. We're in uncharted waters. We'll dig into a tapestry of possibilities that AI presents, and as well as the anxiety that it brings. Everywhere work. That's my favorite topic. The office is no longer confined to four walls. We'll discuss how this liberation of employees impacts leadership, culture, and productivity and changing customer expectations. In a world where change is never normal and never constant, customers' need and demand are in a constant state of flux. What can you do to keep your business customer centric? But that's enough for me. Without further ado, let me introduce our esteemed panel. Welcome, everyone. To get started, let's quickly go around the screen and have everyone introduce themselves. Let's start with you, Peter.
Hi, everyone. I'm Peter de Back, the CFO at Ivanti.
Melissa, we'll just go
Hello.
around the screen here. So
Great, Ira. Hello. Good morning. Good afternoon to everyone. I'm Melissa Pulse. I'm Chief Marketing Officer and Head of Customer Success here at Avanti.
Well, so my name is Brandon Black. I'm the Senior Vice President and General Manager of Avanti Wavelink. It's our supply chain line of business here at Avanti.
Good morning, good afternoon. I'm Dennis Kozak, Chief Operating Officer of Avanti.
So we have so many people on the call today. I'm sure we'll have a lot of questions. Please post your comments. Let us know how we're doing. Please share this with your networks and connections. If you have any questions that you'd like us to respond to, we will try to get to them. Please put them in the chat or post them on LinkedIn, and we'll do our best to get to them. If we can't, however, because we got a lot to cover, we will make sure that someone reaches out to you and gets you an answer. So be sure to add your questions and your comments. So let's get started with you, Peter. We've got a lot on the table. Let's start with business trends. What advice? Well, first of all, give an overview on some of the macroeconomic trends that you see coming, and there's a lot. But then, what advice do you have for leaders navigating the budget? Where should they be making investments in emerging technologies in 2024?
Yeah, sure, Ira. So I think geopolitical tensions around the world remain high. This is probably the biggest threat going to 24 from a global economy perspective. From a macroeconomic perspective, though, going into 24, we are in a much better spot than we were a year ago. If you think about it, inflation has started to ease in most parts of the world. Interest rates are stabilized and are expected actually to go down into next year. The consumer has remained surprisingly resilient throughout this high inflation period. And productivity should get another boost from further technology evolution. This said, interest rates remain significantly higher than the pre-pandemic levels that we got used to for many years. What that means is the hurdle rate for investments remains very high. And business leaders are likely to be very cautious and selective with their investment strategy going into 24.
So are there specific areas investments that you could recommend to our listeners and to your customers?
Yeah, I think from a technological perspective, investments focused on productivity and security will probably be high on the list. Um, let's start with security. Cybersecurity will continue to be a focus area. I think IT environments continue to become more complex. The number of devices to secure continues to rise exponentially. Cyber attacks are on the rise and are getting more sophisticated than ever. Um, I think, and cyber attacks can be very damaging and very costly to businesses. So that's definitely one area of key focus. Second, I would say, and probably very high on the list here, is AI. We should expect investments in artificial intelligence to further accelerate at unseen levels. Applications of Gen AI are so widespread and have impacts across all industries that no business can ignore this trend or even afford to fall behind on this.
We're talking about, I mean, AI has just disrupted it with ChatGPT. Yeah, somebody's speaker, I think, is on. Maybe you want to mute yourself. So we're getting a lot of kickback there. Yeah. So one of the things with AI is it's just about a year ago at this time that ChatGPT came in, and a lot of people are utilizing that. But AI is being embedded in a lot of other technologies. How is that impacting the different roles? Why don't we talk about Melissa? Maybe we'll start with you. I mean, how is it impacting marketing?
Yeah. So I think marketing and customer success, there's amazing opportunities for efficiency gains and productivity gains. Before I talk about that, though, I think one of the things that are really important here is we talk about predictions and what will happen go forward. I think business leaders are going to be very clear and transparent, or at least they should be, with the workers on how they plan to implement AI so that they can retain the really talented employees that they have. We don't believe that machine learning and AI is going to replace people and human creativity, but it will accelerate the pace of our ability to execute at machine speed, which is super, super cool. And at Ivanti, we have a team, an AI governance committee that has been put in place that really sets sort of guardrails and understanding of how we are going to apply AI within our organization. So it's really nice. I think it's important to have some discipline around that. But there's really two areas that we're focused on AI within marketing and customer success. And that's really around efficiency gains and providing insights. And I'll give a couple of clear examples and ways we're using this today. And I think will become more relevant as we go forward. Certainly creating content. Number one area, we drove into that very, very quickly with the adoption of a tool we use at Writer AI. There's lots of tools out there. And it allows us to build content at scale. If you think of a marketing and customer success organization, there is a ton of content we're building within our teams. And Writer AI, which is an AI-based tool, allows us to accelerate the pace of that. And we've gained 20 plus hours a week on content creation and efficiencies already, which is huge. And in customer success, I think there'll be huge adoption in leveraging AI in customer success with efficiency gains, like creating onboard and success plans and helping define customer goals and to deliver at QBRs with customers. So again, I think it allows a lot of efficiency gains with the various tools that we have. The other is insights. So from an insight perspective and leveraging tools from a data point of view, we in marketing leverage a tool called 6sense, which is an account-based marketing tool that gathers tons of data on our customers' buying journey. And it allows us to serve the right piece of content up at the right moment in the buying journey, in the spirit of making it easier for customers to purchase. And that's really the main goal there. So providing insights and using data to provide a better customer experience is I think not only happening today, but it's here to stay as well.
Dennis, I'm sure that AI is impacting how you run the business, how you run operations. Can you address that a little bit? And you're on mute, so come off.
Yeah, absolutely, Ira. So picking up on what Melissa talked about, AI is used in so many different facets of our business, but specifically when we think about internally at Avanti, from running a sales and operations organization, analytics are top of mind. Understanding how our business is performing, right? Melissa talked about Sixth Sense as one of our tools for our lead generation capabilities. That's certainly at the top of funnel for us. How is that funnel going to perform over time? How are our sales reps interacting with funnel, and how are they advancing the funnel? How are they, now gravitating their activities towards the things that will make the biggest difference, the highest propensity of customers to buy, the highest propensity of customers that need to be serviced, right? And understanding, where they are best suited to use their time and energy. Human capital is still an incredibly important component for us, right? And AI will not replace that, right? But it will absolutely augment our ability to execute faster, better, and smarter, and ultimately improve customer service for our customers.
Brandon, when we talk about AI and innovation, I mean, it's not just ChatGPT. It's not just behind the scenes. Talk a little bit about how it's impacting the supply chain. This is an amazing story.
Yeah, it's really interesting when you think about technology and supply chain embracing things like AI. AI introduces all kinds of great opportunities, but it really leans into automation. I mean, automation from that perspective, you start to introduce new technology with AMRs. Think about it this way. Imagine all the people within the supply chain doing work every day to move product from raw goods to consumer. It's really exciting for me. I've been in this space for 30 years. So to think about how product moves through the supply chain, really exciting. But now you apply technology that can make it better for each one of these workers. I think that if we lean into AMR specifically, Ira, imagine having an assistant, specifically an AMR or a guided assistant, to help you go through your day. Just think about it, how more productive you can be, to embrace technology to help you sort of move along and achieve every day, which is so important in the supply chain, especially in distribution and warehousing, which is productivity, accuracy, and safety being at the top of that list. So technology is absolutely something that I think is going to shape in 2024. We're going to see a lot more tech being coupled with automation as throughout operations in the supply chain, but it's an exciting time. And Melissa said it as well, and so did Dennis. And it's not about replacing the worker. It's about augmenting. It's about creating a better experience for each one of those folks. So that's what we're focused on, is creating and delivering that experience to those customers. It's a good journey.
Yeah, and I'm so glad you brought that up about the employees, and we're going to get into remote work and hybrid work in just a minute. But looking back, since during the pandemic, I mean, supply chain was a key topic. Most people never heard of supply chain before that, and we depended on deliveries and warehousing and logistics and all that. How dramatically has that changed? I mean, and then fitting into Avanti's world, how has that impacted the cybersecurity? I mean, in the issues, because it's not just automating these processes to get at that, but there's obviously a lot of vulnerabilities that are created as well.
Well, yes, and how change consumer buying. Everybody over the last 3 years now has a dedicated Amazon room in their house for all their packages. That's one of the key things. I know I do, but as you think about what it introduces, that's a really good question around cybersecurity assets. We're seeing really an explosion of smart assets within supply chain. Think about distribution, logistics, warehousing. It's not just rugged mobility. It's not just mobility, it's the assets that are doing the sensing and the technology of all the things moving through, goods moving through. That's where it's critically important to secure the endpoint. And it's important to secure end to end. And I think that's another really important point there, Ira, is that as this technology enters and as we automate workflows, that securing not just the asset, the worker, but the end-to-end workflow, that's critically important. So cybersecurity, absolutely top of mind. We're seeing it more and more in the supply chain, and organizations are looking for ways to secure and lock down their operations.
We might have a few listeners that aren't familiar with when you talk about the assets and the endpoints. Can you just briefly untech that for us, ungeek it?
Sure. Yeah. I use different words. So when you break it down, mobility has been in supply chain for a long time. And again, I'll stick right in warehouse, but going from manual paper pencil to mobility, and that is a mobile computer that allows you to collect data and perform tasks within a work environment. So everybody's seen probably a rugged mobile computer in your grocery store. If you've worked in a warehouse, you've seen one of these. But it's essentially a small computer that allows you to perform your daily tasks, connecting to your host application. But on the other side of it, thinking about smart technology, it's everything from your phone. Your iPhone is a smart tech. The way that anybody who has an Apple tag is a smart tag, a smart tech, right? It's those things that are now being introduced into the way that product is manufactured and brought to market. So it's those things. Hopefully that cleaned it up a little bit, but I could go all day long on tech and devices.
Yeah, I'm sure we can, and hopefully we'll have that opportunity in 2024. We'll bring everybody back, and we can focus a little bit more on each of these topics. But we're obviously hybrid work or remote work, and I love the tag that Ivanti created was everywhere work. I mean, we can work from anywhere, whether it's on a beach, whether it's in our we converted my part of our basement to an office. Whether it's our car, wherever we are, we can be, working. It's created this opportunity. Peter, I'm going to throw this back to you for a minute. What type of investments have you seen companies making, or what investments should companies be making in 2024 when it comes to remote or hybrid work? And just to clarify this, and coming from my world, is it used to be in person, which was 98% of employees went to work, went to an office building prior to February 2020. And then it became an all or none. It became remote work was 100% remote or 100% in person. Well, it seems that in-person work has now become about, when people, even the company Zoom and other companies that have said, hey, they're bringing people back 100% of the time, or they're bringing people back. It's not 5 days a week. It's 3 days a week, which means it's hybrid. So that has changed, but people just, at least from my experience, they haven't done a whole lot on upgrading or investing in technology, other than making sure everybody has a good connection in Zoom. But from a security point, they haven't done a lot. So Peter, I'm going to throw it back to you, and then we'll go around and get everybody else's feedback on this as well. You're on mute, Peter, you're on mute.
All right. Well, how about I'll take that in the meantime until Peter gets off mute there. So look, Ira, I think we talk about the fact that Brandon talked about people accessing. Well, Peter, I think you're off mute now.
Peter,
I'm mute.
No, you're okay. You're good now.
Okay. We need to go first now. Sorry. So you're absolutely right. So I mean, the post-pandemic world is very different than what people were used to pre-pandemic. So even if the last year a lot of companies have to some degree returned to the office, very few have gotten back to the state of 100% in office. which kind of results into requirements for workforces to be able to work productively across the many workplaces that they operate from. So be able to kind of seamlessly go from one place to the next and be productive from wherever they operate is a key area for investments, I would say. And to do that in a secure fashion is the other aspect, obviously, because working from various locations has some different security risks attached to it. So these are the two things that I see really being important. So being productive from anywhere and in a secure fashion is kind of the two key components. But it's definitely clear that talent is the key differentiator for most companies, and being able to attract talent regardless of their location is such a big differentiator and is there to stay.
So let's go back to you, Dennis.
Yeah, so I think, look, technology is disruptive. And certainly AI is a disruptive technology. It was that mobile access and mobile or remote work or work from anywhere was also disruptive. Now that's considered steady state, right? AI will become that as well. For employees, it's all about ease of doing work. It's all about productivity. It's all about having a positive digital experience, right, as part of doing their job. IT, though, and security are almost, IT is an enabler of that. They have to approve the various technologies, the way that employees and contractors and others enter and access applications. And security, it wants to make sure that everything is locked down and that the enterprise is protected. So almost every one of those three different individuals start from a different vantage point, right? And those things have to be balanced. You have to be secure, but yet enable productivity. You have to be secure, but enable innovation, right? And so having the right posture and the right balance between those things are of critical importance, right? And so our advice to customers is always to proceed slowly and carefully. Melissa talked about our own example. The fact that we have an AI governance council was for that exact reason. There are so many different areas we could use AI. We could use it to build our products. We could use it to service our customers. We could use it internally for analytics and reporting. All of those are equally important to each of the stakeholders, but striking the right balance between secure and productivity is absolutely something that every enterprise has to get right.
Let's go to you, Melissa. You've worked like me, remote for a long time. I've been doing it for 20 years. I'm not sure how long you've been doing it. But obviously you found it beneficial. And when the pandemic hit, you just, the world caught up to you.
Right.
What have you learned from it? And what are some of the what are some of the things that you might miss from an in-office?
Yeah, well, like you, Ira, this is one of my favorite topics too. And as you said, I've been living the everywhere work model for really almost my whole career. I made what was people might have thought at the time was a crazy decision more than 20 years ago to move to Cape Cod, which is not exactly the mecca of high tech. But I truly believe, and it's proven to me over the last 20 plus years of doing this, is that I believe that talented people are everywhere, and the best company cultures are ones that celebrate that. And the most important, it's most important really to give employees the flexibility to work in an environment where they can do their best work. And sometimes as we talked about, going into the office every day, especially, organizations, maybe like development organizations, if you will, if you're building products together where you need really close and tight collaboration so those teams can work really effectively together, it probably makes more sense to work together in one place. Other people do their best work from their home or a coffee shop every day, and there's every permutation in between. But the point is to meet employees where they can do their best work. And I found really in my experience that employees always step up to that. If you meet with them where they are, they'll step up and give their best back to the organization. There's some other things I've learned is, you got to be real clear on what the goals are of the organization, set real clear sense of like, this is where we're going and what we're looking to achieve. So even though they're not every day they're working together, you create some unity on some common goals and objectives that connect teams together. And then you measure how you're doing against those objectives and those goals and the initiatives associated with those goals day in and day out. And that really brings some connection to the teams. So listen, I believe, prediction, I think this isn't a very crazy prediction, but I believe everywhere work is here to stay. And I believe that for a long time. And of course, technology has made this easier and safer for employees. And Avanti's at the forefront, really leading the way in this area, not only setting the culture and the expectations around everywhere work, but providing the tools and technology that allows employees to do their best work, breaking down really those barriers that exist for people to be super productive in everywhere work environments.
Brandon, how is, I guess, remote work affected the supply chain or warehousing? Because obviously warehouses still need people. We don't quite have autonomous vehicles yet. So we need drivers. How has it impacted your role?
Well, I think it goes back. Melissa and I had a discussion. It's maybe been a couple of years now, when we were talking about the brand around everywhere work. Excuse me. And in my line of business, I thought, how does everywhere work apply to a warehouse? And she said, everywhere workhouse or everywhere warehouse. And I went, that applies. It's interesting thinking about, we'll go back to the technology play, how AI being introduced into our day-to-day operations. All of us are affected. I say affected. I love tech. So, but it comes down to how we automate, what kind of things we enable through this. What does technology enable? So 5G warehouses, pop-up warehouses, these things that happened throughout the pandemic and things that were important to be able to get goods to consumers quickly. I think what it shows is that there's just more ways to accomplish what we traditionally have always done in moving product throughout the world, is that we can take this new technology, we can take AI, we can incorporate it, we can take automation. Automation is going to be one very key thing. And I know I'm hopefully not getting ahead of myself here, but when I think about automation and this, in my opinion, or prediction going into next year, automation coupled with technology, the two really are going to enable each other going into 24. It's the assets that I have. How do I do more with it? But what does that mean to everywhere work? Well, it just comes down to, Ira, more of a broader sense of how companies and organizations are meeting the needs of their customers. And in the end-to-end security, end-to-end management, end-to-end ability to execute to the work. Those are things. So I think next year is going to be exciting.
Dennis, I'm going to go back to something that you mentioned. You talked about talent, and obviously this creates opportunity for companies to recruit anywhere, but it also creates a lot of anxiety. And then couple that with AI on top of that about replacement. So, it's a big question, but where do you see this going? Because between the opportunities created, the changes, so not everybody's comfortable with working remote or even hybrid, and then you put the AI component on top of it. And as Brandon said, you have warehouse workers that are used to showing up at work, and all of a sudden it can be an everywhere workplace or everywhere warehouse.
That's right. I think there's a number of examples, and this is just the newest generation, right? And the latest of examples, right? How many years ago did robotics, in automotive manufacturing suggest that, the entire workforce would be wiped out? And it wasn't, right? What it was an inflection point for companies to pivot and retrain workers, reprioritize where workers were doing work or how they were doing work, right? And AI is really no different. It's yet another disruptive technology that allows companies to reassess how they better build products, how they better service their customers. Going back to Brandon's warehouse example, some of the best e-commerce type product companies were built on the fact that they had no retail outlets. Retail outlets then pivoted and said, hey, look, I can use IT and I can use my distribution network to be where my customers are and give them product at the last mile, right? And that's, rethinking the traditional fulfillment center and warehousing and shipping and saying, well, look, I have a network of retail outlets, but I can still provide my product and ship it locally because it's already close to the customer, right? And they used IT to do that. They also had to do it securely, right? So, AI is really just the next version of that. So now that, workers who think, well, I might be replaced by AI. I like to say it in sales all the time. We have not been replaced by websites. Then I said we are not replaced by apps. Now I'm saying salespeople are not replaced by AI, right? Because sales is still a relationship business, right? People buy from people. But AI will help us sell a lot better. We talked before about Melissa's example. Target the right customers at the right place at the right time. Provide them better data, right? Customers want to know what data you have for them, how you can help them, how you can help them detect cybersecurity incidents. AI is critical for that because it analyzes patterns, right? And if we could use that to build our products, if we can use that and expose it to our customers and help them be more secure, right? They're generally more happy. So, this is again once an opportunity that everybody, right? Software vendors like Avanti, customers of ours, partners of ours all get to double down on this disruptive technology and take it to the next level.
So there's a great question from the chat, and I'm going to come back to you just for a second, Dennis, and then I'm going to ask everyone else to chime in as well. The question was, what's the timeline for AI deployment on average? Before we get to that, Dennis, you have your own series on our Geek on my podcast channel, Geek Skeezes and Googlization. Called your show is called Protect and Connect. But you just talked about the differences between regions, regional differences and cultural differences on the impact of AI and technology and everywhere work. Can you just share a little bit of that because I'm sure that's going to impact the timeline for AI deployment.
It does. It does. Look, AI comes in all shapes and sizes, big and small, in terms of complexity, where you roll it out and how you roll it out. You can think about something very simple, like a customer, or people do this all the time already. They institute chatbots on their website, right, to field initial inquiries from customers. Right, that's a very simple deployment. That's not overly complex. But for a customer going on a complete digital transformation, where they're going to use AI to overhaul their entire contact center and how they service customers, that will take them significantly longer because there's various levels of AI that need to be inputted. It might not just be the chatbots, right? But it's the analytics, it's the reporting, it's the things that you service a customer with after the fact, like post-call surveys, right? All of that can be AI driven. And so the time complexity could be from minutes to hours to days to even years, depending on the levels that customers want to take it.
Brandon, do you want to any thoughts on that, on AI deployment timelines when it comes to the warehousing supply chain?
Yeah, I think that it goes back to a comment that Dennis made there about digital transformation. It's this journey that we go on, typically in the supply chain. Companies will stick with technology that works because it works. We're held to a specific KPI. Product needs to move through at a certain rate. So what does AI do? Does AI make it more efficient, more effective? I absolutely believe so. I think that as we think about AI being implemented in the supply chain, we start to see it, and I keep beating on this one, but going back through automation first. How do we take existing workflows, automate those workflows by injecting AI to make it a kind of a more predictive, anticipatory workflow so that folks can achieve their success within their daily activities at a higher rate. I think that it's going to be a tail though. When I think about AI being incorporated, it's going to be a slow play into the supply chain, understanding exactly where it does fit and how it fits. Yeah, it's tough to say. You can pull up ChatGPT today and incorporate some very simple things within your daily operations. But I think on scale, it's going to take probably a good 6 to 12 months for companies to really embrace and start to feel okay with the incorporating something and making sure it's secure. Dennis, you touched on this. Going back to the cybersecurity, and as we've all spoke about, if you're going to incorporate it, what does that do? If you're going to automate it, does it truly give you a benefit, or does it open risk? And that's where I think that the automation, AI automation, coupled with cybersecurity and securing your assets is important. So it's kind of a holistic single source of truth there.
Just one other comment on that in terms of timelines. And I'll just talk from our direct experience with Writer AI. So we started small, right? We took a small group of people and said, hey, try this out. It was quick, super quick, couple weeks. They worked on it, leveraged it, and it gets smarter. The more times you use it, the smarter it gets, and the imperfections become less, right? And so we experimented with a few people. Then we said, okay, let's expand that to another group of people. They got really excited about the benefit of what was there. And then we expanded it to a few more, and then it continues on like that, right? So I think, and the idea is to pick something where you think you can get efficiency gains, start small, right? And then test and plan, test, and then expand. And that's worked for us in a number of areas in marketing and starting in customer success as well.
Yeah, and Melissa, and sorry, Ira, just one more to that point is that think about existing workflows that I just mentioned. It's that type where organizations are starting to implement to get familiar and feel comfortable with what it can do to improve their operation across the board. So, Melissa, that's a great point, is that there's things that we're delivering today that are improving the experience. It's just a matter of doing it full scale across the board.
More efficiently, more effectively. Yeah. Getting better outcomes, but still leveraging the great people you have. You know, you need the people oversight to make sure you're still getting the outcomes you want.
That's a great point.
Yeah. So from a timeline, in marketing, the deployment timeline was yesterday. For supply chain and warehousing, it's coming, and it's coming incrementally and slowly. And in operations, it's all over the place, right?
Mm-hmm.
and it depends on your industry, your business, and your department. Peter, what type of investment? I mean, where do you see? I guess the investment in security in the coming years, and we had. And maybe this relates to a question that just came in. When it comes to generative AI, there's bad actors. Certainly security is going to be key. I mean, every device that you put in, every new technology that you use opens up some vulnerabilities. So, obviously there's a lot for companies to invest in. What's top of the list that people need to deal with?
Absolutely. Threats obviously can be extremely expensive and damaging to the reputation of a company. And being able to kind of protect, it's going to be the top of the list. If I look at the priorities, where to start, I mean, the number of devices, as we spoke about earlier, is multiplying exponentially. And that's probably the biggest risk or the biggest exposure, is to making sure that all the devices that are so much more number than they were before are being protected. And that's probably where the biggest risk is coming from, in my perspective. And cyber attacks are getting much more sophisticated over time. That's the other part. So you have to kind of keep up with the evolution there over time. So I think these are the areas where I would focus on.
Yeah, and I'm not sure who would take this because it was the second part of this question. But can you elaborate how our recent partnership with Securen, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, will help Ivanti offer customers more precise and real-time risk prioritization?
Yeah, I'm happy to take that, Ira. So look, a key capability for any enterprise is to understand where their vulnerabilities can come from, and that really is understanding your attack surface, right? So our partnership with Securen allows us to study and report on what is an enterprise's attack surface, right? Attack surfaces are continuing to expand, with everywhere work, like we talked about before, with device proliferation, right? Mobile devices, computing devices, desktop devices, network devices, entrance to your network, right, are everywhere. And so, an enterprise needs to be able to understand all of the potential entry points, whether it comes in code or whether it comes at the device or whether it comes at the user level, right? Once you understand that, then you could develop a posture and a strategy for how to prevent and ultimately remediate as more sophisticated attacks come in, right? So it's a key capability, right, in terms of, really understanding your perimeter so that you can properly secure it.
So let's talk a little bit. We just lightly went over this, but this is a big issue. When it comes to AI, technology, all these changes, employees are pretty anxious. And, we've addressed it that it creates a lot of new opportunities. But you released a report where a recent report where employees felt that the advantage was, I think, 6 times greater to employers who are implementing AI. What have you done? I mean, and you're in this field where technology and AI could replace, many of the roles that you have. But what's your recommendation for businesses of how to deal with this, with the anxiety, not only the upskilling and the deskilling, or the upskilling and the reskilling and deskilling, but also just dealing with the stress of learning the technologies, being careful, the vulnerabilities. Dennis, do you want to start with that?
Yeah, sure. I mean, look, like anything else, right? Change management is always critical, right? And there starts with a concept around making it safe, right? Helping your employees understand how you're going to leverage the technology, what does it mean for them? And if in a particular case, if it allows them to focus their efforts on a different type of activity or different type of task, right, then how do they give up their old task in exchange for the new task, and how the technology makes that okay, right? And how the management team and the structure, the reporting, the metrics all support that, right? So it has to be holistic. It's not just about, hey, drop a piece of AI on somebody and say, oh, by the way, your job's changed tomorrow, right? But it's really helping them through that journey. Here's what you're going to stop doing. Here's what you need to start doing. And here's how the technology enables that. And as people go through that, recognize there is a period of getting comfortable with that new way of working, with leveraging that new technology. And over time, it becomes sort of like a new exercise, it becomes muscle memory. It becomes easier and it becomes more comfortable and you become good at it, right? And that's really the same principle you have to apply to bringing disruptive technology into an enterprise.
Yeah, I think it's making sure the employees see the benefit of what it is you're bringing to the table. I'll give you a specific example with 6sense, which is our account-based experience product that we use in marketing. And as I've said, marketing is probably more on the forefront because we see the value in some of these tools pretty directly. But there were teams that were doing a lot of sort of one-off campaigns, individual activities, and there was a lot of time and effort and energy going into building these individual campaigns. But we said, okay, what if you don't have to do a whole bunch of individual campaigns? Instead, you're using a tool that's providing insights and serving up on using all this great content that we have and serving it up to the right person at the right time, happening because it's getting more intelligent the more we put in it. Yeah, you're not going to have to spend a bunch of time doing one-off campaigns, right? But you can spend more of your time looking at what content is working, what content is not working, and how to use the data to give a better experience for our customers. And that's not just, a bunch of BS talk. That's really how it worked in the moment, right? We're like, okay, and the team's like, wow, look at now we're getting, and listen, marketing is under an immense amount of pressure to build pipeline that converts to revenue to grow businesses, right? So we don't want to mess around with things that are going to actually impede that. But if you're using technology that helps to make that easier for everybody and get to a better outcome, and you can show the results and the impact to the business, people get on board pretty quickly because it makes their life easier in the short and the long term, and you're getting to your goals faster. So I think it's really about, getting people to really understand that there's benefit to them as an individual, but ultimately to the company as well.
Yep. Yeah, Ira, to that point, just to jump in on that, to Melissa's point there, is that she mentioned it earlier, is that we've created this focus group within the organization, and it allowed people to opt in to participate. And we have some great experts across the organization that are participating in that, all groups, and it's fun and it's exploratory. But what it's done is brought AI to Ivanti. It's allowed us to really embrace it, to understand some of the use cases of how it might be applied in our own business, and then thinking about how that we could build that into solutions and deliver that out to market. But I think what it's, for me personally, done is it's really interesting to start to embrace and explore technology and things like ChatGPT and how conversational AI and all these things that can help you achieve a better outcome. Whatever your job is every day, sometimes if you want to adopt a new tool or some process to make your day better, you've got to jump in and learn it. And I think what's cool about what we've done here is that you could take something into a group where multiple people, multiple line of businesses, multiple products can figure out how it applies to their daily and educate and help support those people around us to scale it out. So I think Melissa in that program's done a great job.
Now you're muted, Ira.
Yeah.
We're gonna roll
Brandon, I'm gonna keep you for a second here, because we're gonna go back to supply chain. Melissa segued really nicely into our fourth topic, which was customer segmentation, being able to respond. And customers, by the way, and you've done a great job, Ivanti's done a great job talking about the digital employee experience, being able to hone into the employee experience. I still hear this every single day. If somebody's struggling with their VPN, they use their own private device to log in to get their work done because they can't get there. But how is that impacted? Again, going back to supply chain, where does customer segmentation, fit in there?
Well, I think what's interesting is from the example of talking about the employee experience. This employee experience across the board is that you have a number of different folks in different industries and different verticals. And when you start thinking about the type of solution that we're providing, it's about the employee experience and productivity. And Ira, if I'm off track a little bit, please pull me back on the rails. But when we think about segmentation across employees, the experience and productivity, safety, accuracy, the things that are really, really important to the overall journey that we go through. It's to me, I think about combining what we do in optimization across the board. If we start thinking about incorporating technologies, we started thinking about the segmentation of customers and employees. How do we deliver that right experience? What's the right thing that we're going to provide to them? What's the right thing that will provide them the confidence that they can achieve their success every day as they venture out to complete their tasks successfully every single day? It's inevitable. It goes back to a single source of truth. It's been said many times on the call here is that we're looking for ways to deliver the right solutions down to the customer, end to end. But when you think about technology applied, coupled with anything from AI to automation to optimization to security to you name it, it comes back to the single source of truth. And I think that's where, as we go into next year, when we get to a single platform or cross-platform that delivers all those things for the different customers and markets that we serve, I think it's going to be a key focus for us and all of our partners and customers in 24.
And I think it's one thing that we've already taken it for granted, and it's only been the last 2 or 3 years. But I know when I order something where the package is.
Yeah.
I still can't get that from HR, or people still can't get that from HR. It's like, how many days do I have? How many vacation days do I have left? But I know the moment that I order a package, when it's left the warehouse, where it is, how many doors away it is, when it's arrived on my block, when it's dropped off on my front door or wherever it's dropped off. So yeah. I think people take that for granted, but they also disconnect that from the AI and all the advanced technology. I think people have gotten so used to it, they forget that, and they wouldn't give it up. I mean, it's like, okay, if you don't want AI, you don't want all this technology, these are the things you're going to have to give up. and I still will go back to talk about the pandemic. If it wasn't
Yeah.
for technology, it wasn't for Zoom, it wasn't for all these things we hated. Can you imagine? I mean, we would have had so many more people, who were infected and sick and probably died because of that, because we had that opportunity, for that. There was another question I had, and it just flew out of my head, but there was another question that came in on the chat. I think it's a really interesting one, and because we only have just a few minutes, and I know we got to wrap up here quickly. But what kind of areas can AI not fill? Where do you see AI not changing our world of work?
Well, Ira, I'll start with one of the points I made earlier. At the end of the day, right, this world, right, with 7 billion plus people is still a people-oriented world. And while technology can help, people can't necessarily replace people. People buy from people. It's relationship-based, it's trust-based, history-based. Technology is there to augment those things, right? To improve the speed or the accuracy or the quality of an interaction, right? But at the end of the day, we are all humans and we still need to do that interaction. We all thrive on that. The entire world is built around that for thousands and thousands of years. That won't change, right? So you have to look at that as the baseline and then work outwards from there. And I think to your point before about segmentation, you think about, large companies are really good at adopting technology at the forefront or at the fringes of their business. But the core things, like you talked before about an HR system or policy, may not change, but it will change over time. So it's just more of a ripple effect, if you will. Similar to, you could join a company a couple of years ago and you got a company issued laptop or a company issued desktop computer. Then it became, well, I want my own device. I'm going to bring my own device. And companies had to adjust to that. Right. And that became, then it was, well, I don't want an application in the data center. I want an application in the cloud. First, people talked about cloud as being only for toys, only for developers, not for enterprise applications. All of that changed over time as the capabilities got more mature, as it got more secure, as people got more comfortable with those disruptive technologies. This, again, is no different. It's just the next inflection point and the next iteration of technology disrupting what we do every day. But we have a chance to adopt. It's that old human reaction, fight or flight.
Yeah, and most people still think that Amazon is a glorified bookstore and a retail store when Amazon's really a data storage cloud company, right? Well, how they evolve. It's a great story. Hey, we just have about 5 minutes left, and we don't want to kind of get away without thinking about what the show is about, Predictions 2024. So I'm going to go around the table here, around the screen, I guess, and ask each of you what you think the biggest prediction. What's your biggest prediction for 2024? We're going to be, 12 months from now. Hopefully, we'll be back and we'll do Predictions 2025 together. What will we be talking about that happened over the next 12 months? So, Peter, we'll bring you on first.
Yeah, I'm definitely bullish on 24, honestly, based on where we stand today, and the evolution of the technology around this will really help us improve productivity, efficiency, and value creation ultimately. That's really what I'm most excited about.
So productivity and value creation is going to take a huge jump in 2024. That's good news. Melissa.
Yeah. So, being that I built my career on B2B marketing, this is a little bit risky, but I've been saying this for a little while, but I think B2B marketing is dead. Essentially, I think it's really about B2H, which is business to humans, and marketing and customer success is going to come together like we've done at Ivanti, and I think other companies will do this as well, to really have marketing and customer success be looking at the entire life cycle of the customer experience. It's no longer good enough to just build pipeline and build a brand, but it's requirement of marketing and customer success organizations to be thinking also about adoption and retention of the customers as well, and really putting the buyers, the humans, at the forefront of every touch point we have between marketing and customer success. So I think B2B is dead. It's all about business to humans and leveraging tools and technology and experiences to be effective in those processes.
Brandon.
Yeah, I my prediction in 2024 is that digitalization is going to be the key for the supply chain. It's about really taking the manual to digitalizing it. It's across the board. I think organizations are clamoring for it. I think companies are taking a look at their people, their processes, their products, and understanding how they can do more. And we're seeing it now, and there's great momentum going into next year. So automation around digitalization, I think, is going to be the thing in 24. Ira.
Sounds good to me. Dennis.
All right, so I'll probably be maybe a little less bold compared to Melissa, but when you think about the economic environment is going to remain difficult. Geopolitical concerns are going to be out there, right? Those two things are not going to ease overnight. So companies have two choices. They can sit on the sidelines and wait and see how it plays out, or they can really double down. They can leverage technology to go in and break out from all of their competitors and their peers. And I think you're going to see some real standout performers next year of companies that really use this as an inflection point and as a tipping point for them to pivot and break out from the pack. And I think you're going to see some real high flyers in the next couple of years in a number of different spaces, in technology, in retail, in healthcare. People will use this to their advantage and really, really set themselves apart.
Well, thank you, everyone. This has been fantastic. We were barely scratching the surface. We covered a lot of territory, from business trends to customer segmentation, AI, talent, the employee experience, everywhere work. But we barely scratched the surface. So hopefully we'll be back in 2024 doing this again. You heard some great predictions here. We want to thank everybody who tuned in today. There were a few questions that we didn't get to. I'm sure that there's a few others that people didn't get an opportunity to post or will watch this on replay. Please post them in the comments, and the Ivanti team will continue to monitor those and get back to people. And please check out the website too. There's a number of great white papers up there, or you can just go in and type in Everywhere Workplace or Everywhere Work, and Ivanti will show up. And please download those, a couple of those white papers we reference. Want to wish everybody very, very happy holidays, whatever you're celebrating. Happy New Year. Hope to see you in 2024. Take care, everyone.